This episode of the Unwashed Asses is brought to you by you. You, everybody over at patreon.com/0 and 09 who pitches in $1 or $2 a month, keeps things running. It's been a weird, fun year. We start the year with no podcast, and now it's entirely self-funded or funded by you guys. No advertising, and it's all out of your pockets, and I can't thank you enough. So, be it word of mouth or actually pitching in, like I said, $1 or $2 a month. That's all I ask. Helps keep things going here. And yeah, got nothing else on that. Thank you. Oh man, get distracted there. Distracted putting away Christmas presents. Hey, welcome to the Unwashed Asses, episode 42? 42, I think it is. Recorded Monday, December 25th, 2017. It's Christmas. It's Christmas here, and everybody's happy and having cheer, except, of course, one foul beast of a man who hates everyone and everything. Me. So this is actually, I'm looking at the calendar here. It's going to be our last episode of the year. How do we end this? How do we do a year-end special? I put on a Santa hat. I make sure the lights are lit up behind, and that the studio lighting's turned on. That's how we do a year-end episode. I thought about doing like, let's go over favorite movies, favorite video games, and do a shitty cop-out. We'll do a top 10 list. Here's everything that I loved this year, and you guys are going to listen to me talk about it, essentially do like highlight clips as far as, well, it's going to be low effort, low budget. We'll just, replay clips from the year. But you know what? No, we're not going to do that. We're going to give you what you pay for. We're going to give you a whole new show, a whole show just for you, if you're all curled up at home with the family, with Graham and over in the corner, and you decided to tune on into the live show, or if you're like me, sitting at home all alone, after an entire day of disappointing your child with lackluster presents, then yeah, we've got a place for you. Pull up a seat. We're gonna have, I can't guarantee fun, but I'll keep you entertained at least for the next hour. So, as I take a sip from my ginger ale and my dwindling supplies, Christmas! Yay! Hope everybody had a good day and had fun and got what you wanted, and you aren't dwelling in abject depression by being alone on the holidays. I know it's a weird thing. You grow up and you move away from home, and then before you know it, you got the choice. Well, do I go back home and celebrate with the family, or has everybody, like in my instance, spread out to the point where you don't have the family Christmas anymore? You're stuck by yourself. Or in my case, not entirely by myself. I have my son, which I pick him up in the morning, I drop him off at night. Glory be the single dad. Who has visitation rights? Yes, but this year was interesting in the sense that the past couple of years, like, he's only 4 now, so he just turned 4, and unwrapping presents hadn't really been a thing until this year. He just, for whatever reason, wasn't grasping the concept, wasn't excited about it. But this year, it's like, oh yeah, presents. Get me at them presents. So I pick him up this morning, and it's all about, Santa came and he got me this, he got me that, and I was having fun playing with it, and he's nothing but, disappointed to see me. He doesn't want to spend time with me because he's, he woke up, he had some Christmas cookies, he got to play with some awesome new toys, and then it's time to take a ride over to Dad's house, where you'd think, okay, more candy, more pop, more toys. It's all up to you, buddy. The world is your oyster. Just like, your birthday, pretty much everything goes on Christmas. And then you have the added bonus that we are not going over to some relative's house and sitting around and sharing bullshit stories about the weather, or you're not getting that great aunt who's pinching your cheeks. Just, it's you sitting at home doing whatever the fuck you want. And apparently it was, I mean, my boy, he's into trains and cars. Those are his jam. That's what he's into right now. And as I was doing the shopping for him, I'm thinking, well, he's got plenty of trains and cars at home. Why don't we try and, broaden his horizons, diversify a little bit, try and get him interested in different things. So there's this big old Connect set that you can build like rudimentary 3D structures out of. Got him a couple dinosaurs. He got a few other things, but essentially they were wildly different. It wasn't just straight up cars and trains. And upon opening the first present, it's just like, oh, I don't like dinosaurs. Like, excuse me? You're 4 fucking years old. You're in the prime of being a little kid. How are dinosaurs not just engrossingly fascinating? Like, I failed you as a parent. I was slapped in the face with that reality that I have failed him, that he's not hip to dinosaurs. And I'm thinking to myself, he's unwrapping the first present. He's like, oh, yeah, dinosaurs, awesome. You're going to be awfully disappointed by that next present you're going to go open up, because, fun fact here, it's just a bigger dinosaur. And, I mean, as I pull them up to camera here, they're not terrible. Like, I would have totally been all right with these dinosaurs. You got a little velociraptor, and I'm not going to do it, but they make sound effects. You pull their arm, and they roar, and their eyes light up, and we found out that the fucking T-Rex, he walks, he roars, and he's got like this weird rubber neck in his head, and so it moves around, and he's just going to town and having a good old time. And so it's like, oh, more dinosaurs, awesome. The exact words out of his mouth were, really? It's like, oh, okay. Well, I see how this is gonna go. And yeah, he wasn't too thrilled with the rest of his presents. Now, that hurt. I'm not gonna lie, that hurt. That was a slap in the face. Like, oh, okay, well, I've failed you. That's my fault. I'm sorry. But he did spend the rest of the day playing with them and having a good time until it's like, oh no, I want to go home. Son of a bitch. I turned the T-Rex on. It's like, no, I want to go home and hang out with Mom and play with the better toys. Like, fair enough. Well, I'm making Christmas dinner, so you're going to sit your ass down and eat with me. But I don't want to. Okay, well, we're going to sit and watch a Christmas movie. I don't want to. All right, time to go home. Yay. Yay. Yay to going home and leaving Dad. So then, of course, drive him home. Then I have the nice sullen drive in the dark home to an empty house with the cats and the remnants of, what could be a family. And it's like, awesome. It's awesome. But you know what else is awesome is realizing the potential that opening up Christmas presents. Like, I've cut out so many people in my life that I only have to worry about getting gifts for really 2 people because I'm such a shitty person. To whomever I'm sleeping with that year, and then my son. So in the terms of whomever I'm sleeping with, if there's high turnaround, you get a different gift. You have a different chance every year essentially, and so I realize you can judge a person based on the types of gifts they give you. Like, okay, well, you're just a shitty gift giver, but how's your head game? Can we balance things out? Is this something where I can kind of put in the pro category or the con column? How does this pan out? Is it something that I can overlook? Because honestly, I'm only getting one gift a year now, or getting gifts from one person a year now, and I I gotta decide. Well, how am I going to invest with this? And so, like last year was it. I mean, admittedly, it was a bust because I got no presents. And what are you gonna do? Just no presents. Okay, well, love you too. Here's 4 or 5 thoughtful gifts that I kind of picked out and thought you would really like, and then nothing for me. And it's not about getting presents, but at the same time, it's fucking Christmas. It's about getting presents, and um, so I mean, when the bar's set kind of that low, you can really only go up. But at the same time, it's interesting to see what a new person thinks of you and what it is that your interests are. Like, well, I got you some post-its because you're very forgetful, and you always say you have to empty out your brain. Like, awesome. Okay, well, thank you. I appreciate the post-its and your belief that, yeah, well, yes, I am admittedly a forgetful person. You don't give somebody fucking post-its as a Christmas present. It's one of those things like, well, here, I know you're always trying to write stuff down. You think you forget it. Like, phrase it a bit differently. Like, phrase it nicely. I know you're a forgetful asshole, but we're going to phrase it a bit nicer. Here's some fucking post-its because I know you're a dumb shit. Write it down. Tack it up to your desk or whatever. Don't give somebody post-its as a Christmas present. And then you also have to take into account, well, how do I match up what I'm spending versus what they're spending? Are we coming to equal terms? Am I going to go all out and, spend what I consider a significant amount of money and only, like, just give numbers here. Like, I'll spend $100 and then they only spend $50. Well, how does that pan out? How does that measure up on the love scale? Do they love me as much? Were the gifts as thoughtful, or were they fucking post-its and here's some underwear? I mean, underwear is all well and good. I'm at the age where I appreciate it as a present for the holidays because I'm always, with my shit diet, I'm just destroying underwear left and right. I need new underwear. I need a constant influx of the stuff. But Christmas is about not necessarily practical gifts, but about gifts that somebody will enjoy. And I know I fucking killed it this year. I destroyed it, except with my son, who I let down yet again because I'm a terrible father. But as far as, the girlfriend, oh yeah, I fucking destroyed it. Nailed it, hit it out of the park, no worries. But then the question comes in, well, how did they do? And how do I judge them for their gift-giving ability? And is this something I can kind of live with? So I'm curious to see what others have to weigh in on with this subject. Kind of like, last week, well, what celebrity do you think you could beat up? This week, I want to know if you do have a new partner in your life, or like this is your first Christmas together, how do they stand up? Are they a shitty gift giver? Or is it something where, yeah, they kind of held their own? Because I never really considered it before until, again, last year where I got stiffed. And then this year where it's like, okay, well, this is what you got me. Okay, let me evaluate this. And then do you... I'm just going to reiterate. So, no. Christmas is, I don't know, a shitty holiday. I hate it so much. I mean, I love getting into the spirit, and decorating the house and listening to the Christmas music. Oh, by the way, it's impossible to I don't know what the deal is with I don't listen to terrestrial radio anymore, but I do have Sirius in my car, and I could not find fucking Christmas music to save my life. I don't know if they have different packages or what the deal is, but the only time I could find Christmas music was today on the coffee house station, and they're just playing the world's shittiest acoustic covers of songs, and it was not good. I mean, like, where's my Trans-Siberian Orchestra? Where is the Queen of Christmas, Mariah Carey? Where are the Titans of Christmas, Josh Groban and Michael Bublé? I did not hear one of those fuckers anywhere. Instead, at the gas station, I hear some shitty song about texting me on Christmas, and more crappy acoustic guitar covers. I want to see these two mythical figures, Buble as he emerges from his cave from the holidays, and Groban descending on his white cloud, do battle to the death like Godzilla and King Kong. I want them just to go head to head to decide who is going to reign supreme over Christmas until the next year. And it's one of those battles where the winner can only be decided by who's left standing, as Groban belts out with such a powerful, sincere, innocent voice, and Buble comes at him with kind of a jazzy snap thing to counter effect him. Who would stand victorious? Who would emerge? Who would capture our hearts? And do we have the Kmart singer as far as Harry Connick Jr. even try and step in, or is it just not worth it? I don't know. Send me your thoughts. theunwashedasses@gmail.com. theunwashedasses@gmail.com. Let me know. Oh, yeah. So those that caught the stream last night know I finally have delved back into Bloodborne, and digging it. We had a great run going last night in Old Yarnum until I lost I lost all my souls, and then went back to go get them, got them, and then got dumb by getting greedy and like, oh, well, we could explore a little bit more. I could take these werewolves, and I could not, in fact, take the werewolves. And it ended up with me saying, you know what, that was just embarrassing. I'm going to go ahead and end the show. Thanks for watching, everybody. So the next two segments, heads up, we're going to do some spoilering. So, spoilers. So we're just gonna throw that out there. So if anybody watching or anybody listening, here is the part where I break down Nier Automata, and then the next segment we're gonna go ahead and talk The Last Jedi. And so if you don't want to be spoiled on either, here's kind of where you dial out. And if this is where you're dialing out, thank you for listening. We'll see you in the new year, and thank you for all the support thus far. So Nier was one of the games that I got for the PS4 the past month. It had piqued my interest and grabbed my attention from the design standpoint, and then also the fact that it was developed by Platinum Games. Now, Platinum is the studio that has, I know I've talked this point to death, put out Bayonetta, as well as like Vanquish and a few other titles that I really, really enjoyed. And so I knew kind of what I was getting, and like they've yet to make a game that I don't really enjoy. So it's easy for me to kind of spend my money on them going into it a little bit blind or ignoring reviews. And admittedly, well, I shouldn't say admittedly, Nier had actually gotten exceedingly good reviews from pretty much every outlet out there. A lot of the customer-based reviews also spoke very highly of it, not only from the gameplay perspective, but also from the story. They're saying it was very heart-wrenching and hit all the right emotional strings. So I'm like, okay, I can get behind this. I can get this game. I can start playing it without really any hesitation. So I ordered that and Horizon Zero Dawn. And after spending about an hour with each, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna just dive headlong into Nier. I'm having more fun playing it. While there's a lot to do in Horizon, I'm gonna kind of go with the title that I feel is more fun at the time. And then Horizon's just a gigantic fucking game in its own right that I could spend dozens of hours playing without getting everything. And that's how I play games. I am very much a collector, and I have to grab every piece of armor, every outfit, every weapon, and it's killing me in Bloodborne right now because I'm at the stage of the game where I want to treat it like Final Fantasy instead of like wandering into where I need to for the story. I'm gonna fuck around outside for maybe a dozen hours and just grind up my character and make them severely overpowered. But I have to decide, well, am I going to spend the souls on, or the blood echoes, on leveling up my character, or am I going to spend it on a piece of gear like the Kirk hammer that my character is not even physically able to use, but I need to have it added to my collection? So, Nier has me conflicted. The long and short of it is that I'm not sure how I feel about it at the end. So, Nier is a game that is it's set. Well, I guess let's start story here. So it's set in the far distant future where aliens had invaded the Earth, nearly wiping out humanity with robots. Humanity was forced to flee to the moon, where they went ahead and made androids. Now, I know you're thinking, robots, androids, what's the difference? Not too much, actually. And that's one of the big plot points here. So, again, spoilers. Anybody who wants to know, just get the fuck out now. Because apparently, this has a really good story. So the idea is that the androids go down to Earth, fight the robots, and are trying to wipe out the robots and the aliens to make Earth habitable once more for humanity. You are charged with playing two androids, respectively. One is called 2B, which is the lady, and one is 9S, which is the little guy. 2B is very much the hack and slash soldier type, and then 9S is the more support hacker. Now, the way the story itself breaks down is your character is sent down to Earth to first attack a giant target, meet up with a resistance squad, and kind of just carry out missions from there. Now, along the way, you find out that the robots aren't behaving the way that they're supposed to. One, they're capable of speech. Two, they're acting a bit like humans. And three, they're doing a lot of other weird shit that no one ever thought they had done for, it's never been observed in the thousands of years that they've been inhabiting Earth. It gets to the point where you find a robot colony that births a new type of robot that looks a lot like an android. And I was like, well, how is that? Why is that possible? You fight the android, he spawns another android, and they're called Adam and Eve. Now, this begins my dissatisfaction with the game in that it tries to be so highbrow and philosophical with what it's doing. You have Adam and Eve created from, a hive of robots. Eve came from Adam. The main characters are 2B and 9S, or 2B or not to be. And thus begins their series of, well, what is it to be alive? What is it to actually be human? And can we trust anybody, or is everything we know a lie? So as you proceed through the game, you go ahead and kill Adam and Eve, and the robots start going a little bit crazy. Of course, you meet some robots that are pacifists. They've broken themselves off from the robot network. And you find out the aliens have been dead all along. Thus, and then the side support character 9S has killed, has infiltrated their network, but been compromised in the process, and so 2B must kill 9S before his corruption can spread. Thus ends playthrough 1. Now, Nier has an interesting take on how endings in games are supposed to work, in the sense that you can earn, it's either 23 or 26 different endings in the game, 5 of which are considered main endings. Now, to get them, there are many different things you have to do. Like a lot of the endings are joke endings. Like you eat a fish and your character dies. You can self-destruct on the bunker where all the androids reside and get an ending. But the main endings come from your decisions throughout the main campaign. Beat the story A, which covers 2B story. Then you start over and play the entire game again, the exact same plot points. We go to Earth, we meet up, we destroy Adam and Eve, and 2B kills 9S, and that ends story 2. Story 3 is, okay, well, now we're finally moving on. We're continuing the story from the first 2 playthroughs. Now, bear in mind, if you rush through, it still takes about 7 hours to clear all of the story content on one playthrough. So, my first playthrough 2B, I was actually trying to do all the side missions, and there is a plethora of that content to do. There's no lacking of content in Nier, which isn't a big complaint of mine. It's just how it's all interwoven into the main game. So, I spent about 14 hours playing through his 2B. When I got to 9S, I hated playing the character so much because his playstyle is so vastly different. You're forced into doing these hacking mini games. So to hack a character, you interface with them, and it brings you into a new screen where it plays very much like Asteroids. There are things shooting at you that you have to destroy. There are different scenarios, but essentially it all breaks down the same. Destroy the black ball, and then you've hacked the enemy. And sometimes you have to hack an enemy multiple times to defeat them. But the way... Clearly, the game designer was in love with this hacking concept, or just asteroids in general, and so it is ham-fisted into the game in multiple sections. When you first start the game, you're flying in essentially a jet or a flight suit, and have to play the asteroid-type minigame. Anytime you hack with 9S, sometimes the camera will just shift up overhead and do like a high view of everything, and it's kind of the same thing where you have multiple enemies shooting at you. You have a gun that can fire rapid fire and all that, and it's essentially an asteroid / bullet hell shooter. I don't like those, and the way, like, I get it. It's their design choice. It's their game. They do what they want with it. But Platinum Games, I buy with the understanding that they're going to be hack and slash, very action oriented, and that's what I got for the first 14 hours with 2B. There was a little bit of the bullet hell shooter thrown in there, but it was tolerable enough that I could get through it because I knew what was coming. With 9S, it was 7 straight hours of the nonsense. And then there is a divide in the community itself as far as, well, 9S is actually the stronger character because he can be kitted out for range battles, and the hacking pretty much one-shots most enemies. That's all well and good, but if you're in the camp like me, where you just don't enjoy that game style, like, I don't buy bullet hell shooters. I've not played Asteroids since, an Atari emulator 20 years ago. I don't like it. I don't enjoy it. And to have it forced on your players when that's not what they signed up for. Any gameplay review doesn't really show that aspect of the game. It's all the hack and slash with 2B. And so I rushed through the second playthrough just to get over with 9S. And 9S is just an annoying, whiny character who is in love with 2B. And I suspect there's some type of love story they're trying to tell, but it's so awkwardly told, you're not even sure if 2B's interested. And long story short, we find out she's not really interested because she's not actually a 2B unit. She is a 2E. To Echo, where they are designed to kill the 9S soldiers that start learning too much, because the 9S's are capable of higher processing. They're able to think more, and then they start unraveling the threads that make up their existence, and when they do, the 2E Echo is sent out to kill them. So, on the third playthrough, you're sent to Earth, Adam and Eve are dead, and you're trying to clean up the remaining robots. At this point, 9S already has inklings that what they're doing is a lie, that the androids that humanity's been dead for ages, and the recordings they get, the messages they get from the moon are just recordings, which, big fucking shocker. I was under the delusion for a long time that the robots were the humans, like for some odd reason they had their souls or memories embedded in them, but it wasn't the case. Robots are actually just emulating human society in an effort to understand it. Um, so yeah, there's the big fucking surprise is that humanity's been dead, the aliens have been dead, the androids have been lying to themselves. The high command has known, and they just keep putting it out there that, oh yeah, humanity's still out there, we have to fight them, just to give themselves a reason to fight. But ultimately, androids and robots are fighting themselves for no real reason. In fact, the black boxes that make up the core of the androids are derived from robot tech. They're the same at the core of their being, and that starts driving 9S insane. And we're introduced to a third character who is a rogue android who cut herself off from the network, and we never really get much explanation as far as why she went rogue. I mean, I can surmise that she found out that humanity's been dead, but it's never clearly explained. And so the third playthrough essentially ends with a higher thought process. I don't know if it is a machine. I believe it is a machine. Has created a virus that has hacked and infiltrated all of the androids, driving them insane, causing them to kill one another, and 9S has to kind of unravel it and survive. In fact, him and 2B are the only ones left alive until 2B becomes infected, and the new android, A2, has to kill her. And, of course, 9S isn't privy to why 2B gets killed. He just sees A2 standing over a dead body. And the last two surviving, like main androids, despite all the resistance support members throughout the game, are forced to try and kill one another. And so that's how you get your next two endings as far as who do you pick at the end? Who kills who? And of course I went with A2 because she plays very much like 2B did. I got my hack and slash gameplay back. But the third playthrough is intermixed. Like, you're constantly swapping back and forth between the two characters. So, again, I'm not getting what I want out of the game. It seems like I have to slog through and suffer what the game deems its triumph of a story just to get to what I enjoy. And then to kind of cap everything off as you're going through the game, dependent on, it doesn't even matter which character you really pick, A2 or 9S to kill the other, you have to get the ending again. You have to get 4 different endings to unlock the 5th ending, which is nice. I shouldn't say nice, but what's convenient is after you've beaten the game 3 fucking times already, you unlock the ability to do a chapter select, so you can just jump right to the end of the game, pick the other character, get the 4th ending, which then unlocks the 5th ending, which is absolute bullshit because it's just you shooting the credits, and then at the end you're presented with the choice of, because the credits, it's again the bullet hell asteroid type shooters situation, it becomes impossible to complete. It's beyond anybody's ability to beat it on their own, and so that's when the game's like, well, this player would like to help you, and this player would like to help you. And what they do is they create essentially a weapon that allows you to beat the credits and beat the game. Now at the end, you can then choose to, well, would you like to return the favor and help other players in this situation? Now, if you choose to do this, the game gives you a platinum trophy, but it also, well, not a platinum trophy, but a very rare trophy, but it deletes all of your saved data. Now at this point, I have put in close to 30 hours into the game, and it wants to delete it. No. And I've read thoughts on the matter as far as, oh yeah, no, it totally makes sense. It's a single-player game. I went through, I played everything I wanted, and then I deleted my save data and turned in the game, sold it. It was a great experience, top to bottom. And that's where I can't get behind it, because at that point, I had been rushing through the game just to play it the way I wanted to. I was suffering through the story and design choices by the game director and his staff to actually have fun with it. And to be presented with the choice of essentially throwing away all of my effort when there was still plenty more game to do, because at this point I had ignored 60% of the side quests. I hadn't even gotten 40% of the weapons, and definitely hadn't gotten any of the outfits. So of course I'm not going to delete my data. And then this is where the game kind of began in earnest for me. I had to slog through 30 hours worth of story content that was overly dramatic, and while I can understand what it was trying to do, maybe I'm just at a point in my life where I don't have really empathy for these characters. It wasn't pulling me in. It was more... It's like when you watch anime as a young boy, you can identify with, the male leads and kind of project yourself into it, but as you get older, it's just like, okay, this is just unnecessary drama. It's overly emotional, and just it's terrible. That's kind of where Nier suffers, is that it wants to be profound and talk about philosophy, but it is just so blatantly obvious what's happening, and I don't know. I don't get why people are raving about it as much as they are. It's a fun game, but the story gets in the way of that fun. On top of that, the soundtrack is really, really decent the first listen through. And it gets real repetitive real fast, because complaint number 2 is you revisit the same areas constantly. There's so much backtracking, and it's really when you think about it, it's a very small world in terms of the areas that you visit. You have a factory, a central exploration zone, a desert, a forest, a flooded city, and that's kind of it. There's not much else. There's a few pieces here and there, but you don't really revisit those ones so much. And with it being a small map and having to replay the game 3 times at least, you retread a lot of content. And even in playthrough 1 with 2B, you're constantly going back and forth to areas. And part of the problem with it is, on my first playthrough, I was very frustrated because I always try to do my side quests before I continue the main quests. Almost to a fault, where it nearly ruined the first Mass Effect for me, because the side quests were just kind of randomly generated. You always went to the same place, you did the same objective, and it sucked. It really was awful. And that's kind of how Nier is as well, where there is some side story and the rewards are pretty decent, but there's just so much backtracking that has to happen, especially with the side quests. It gets tiring very quickly. And there are terminals throughout the game, because it doesn't feature an autosave. You have to save at the terminals, or if the game says, oh yeah, you can do a quick save now, that it's like, well, why can't I teleport between these terminals? It was very frustrating spending 15 minutes running across a map just to get the next step in my quest. That would send me across the map and then back again. Until I find out, oh no, had I just stuck with doing the story and ignored the side quests, I would have reached a point where, yeah, now teleportation, it opens up and I'm able to complete stuff much, much quicker. At that point, I just abandoned all side quests until I, got to the chapter select section. But once you're done with the story, that's, again, well, I'm sorry, before I get ahead. With all this backtracking, the same sound clips or songs or background music, whatever you want to call it, play in the same areas. And with all this backtracking, you keep hearing the same songs. And there are a lot of very high-pitched, whining, singing voices, and it's all in, a different language, or in my case, I believe it's Japanese, but I can't understand what they're saying. And while, again, the first playthrough is and the first, couple times listening to it, it's great, I loved it. But if you're stuck doing a terrible hacking challenge, or you're just going back to an area to grab a couple items to then head back to the quest giver, it gets real fast. And it got to the point where I had to just turn off the music in the game. I couldn't tolerate it anymore. And at that point, it got a lot more enjoyable. Um, but the game, it opens up again once you beat it for the third time. And it shouldn't take 30 hours for a game to get enjoyable. That was the biggest complaint I had with Final Fantasy 13. It had a 25-hour tutorial in it. And I'm noticing a lot of Japanese games are falling into this pitfall of, oh, let's go ahead and hold the character's hand or really drag them through something before they can kind of get out on their own. And that's where, again, that's where Nier really starts to open up, is once you've gotten rid of all the story content and you're allowed to do what you want. In this point, I'd purchased the DLC, which was a Coliseum / Horde or Challenge mode, and then weapon collecting and grinding out my character to the max level and finding the ideal ability layout for them and making them as strong as possible. And with that, I got at least another dozen hours worth of content out of the game where I was actually just having fun because I'm not having to play 9S. I can stick exclusively to 2B or A2. It doesn't matter because they play near identical. And, I'm able to progress through and collect the weapons and get the sparse amount of outfits and complete these challenge modes and get my character kitted out and geared up and just have fun playing it. And that's where my conflict lies, is Nier is an absolute delight and treat to play. It is one of the funnest games I've played. If you're into action games like Devil May Cry, Bayonetta, it scratches that itch. It does really well. But you have to suffer to get to that. And again, I appear to be in the vast minority in that I found the story mode for Nier very, lackluster. But a lot of people are raving. They love it. So, I don't know. I mean, is it one I'm going to play again? Probably not. I'm not going to sit through that story. There are a couple things left to do, but I'm taking a break. I've already moved on to Bloodborne. Will I come back to it, time to time? Probably. It's fun to play, but there's not much incentive. And maybe that is the idea behind that fifth and final ending where you delete your save data. Is it something where, I know for certain I'm never going to come back and play this, and I kind of want to get that trophy now? Am I okay with deleting my data? I don't know. I mean, time's going to tell with this one. But it definitely made me think differently about games as a whole, where you have, all these different endings to get. Endings are just another thing to collect at this point for me, which I find intriguing because there was a time back when games weren't, you play through it, you get to the end, and that's it. If you miss something, well, you've got to replay the game or hope you had a save point around that section. Now it's a matter of, well, I can go back. I've beaten the main story, but there's all this side content I can do. And, the game, it opens up after I've beaten the main story, and I can still go around and do all this extra stuff, and it doesn't, it keeps letting me play. It's infinite. But with Nier, it's no, I got this end, but now I need to go get this other ending. And the way the save system works, as far as if you've obtained something, it allows you to carry that over without necessarily having to save or continue a story point. Just hit up a terminal, save, load up the chapter select to go get the next thing you want. And when you're doing the weapons collections, that's kind of how it works, because certain weapons are available only for a certain period of time. So it feels a bit like time travel in that you're able to pick save points throughout any period in that 30 hours you spent with the main game to get what you want out of it. And I mean, there are games with time travel elements in place, but It almost feels like Nier kind of unintentionally stumbled into this, and it worked to great effect. But again, it was something that came after the story was done. It really does seem like the fun in the game comes when you're done playing what was supposed to be the fun in the game. So, I don't know. Again, just based on what I read in the subreddit, I appear to be in the kind of minority with my thoughts on it, but I don't regret it. It was definitely, well worth the $25 I spent. As far as full price, it's probably still worth it. Like I said, I got about 40 hours worth of entertainment out of it. So as far as games go, especially single player content, it's a good deal. Oh. Oh boy. So there's a new Portal game out on mobile. It's a shitty little crossy bridge type thing. You build a bridge and get a thing across. Like bullet hell shooter's not gonna be my cup of tea. We're gonna let that one slide. But I'm still craving more Portal in my life. All right, so now that you listen to me ramble about a video game, that some people had messaged me saying, why are you playing such a weird game? Let's just quit it. Let's get into something that everybody loves. Let's talk The Last Jedi. So again, heads up to anybody watching, listening, and if you've not seen it, don't want to be spoiled, here's your get out point. Put this up in the chat. But that way you guys have no fucking excuse at this point. You can pop into the stream and be like, oh shit, Last Jedi spoilers, best get the fuck out. So yeah, Star Wars. I've talked a lot about this on previous episodes that it's kind of lost me. It's not something I've been, super into. I've lost my passion for it. I've lost my interest, and it was kind of like on the fence. Do I really even want to continue with this? Of course, I'll go see them, but it's not something like, oh, I have to go see, we have to go see it opening weekend, or I have to know what happens. Just kind of like, it happens, it happens. I'm in no rush, to the point where last week I think I told you guys, I went ahead and spoiled myself on The Last Jedi, and it didn't make me want to go see the movie anymore. It didn't make me want to go see it any less. Just kind of meh. And now having seen it, I gotta say I'm excited about Star Wars again. I'm digging it. I'm wanting to get back into, maybe not like expanded lore, but now I'm interested in what's happening again, because this director Rian Johnson went ahead and did what I've wanted Star Wars to do for so long, is in terms of burn the past down and let's just fucking move on. Let's tell new stories. And The Last Jedi delivered on that so fucking well. So it picks up very close behind Force Awakens. So the Resistance / Rebel Alliance is kind of on the run from the First Order. They had their big support blown out in that movie, and there's only a few, members left. Rey went to go see Luke to get training and bring him back to the fold to deliver hope to the galaxy. And Kylo's being brought to Snoke to complete his training. Now, were a lot of big questions left as far as, who's Snoke? Who are Rey's parents? What's her lineage? Can Snoke use the Force? What's Luke gonna do? Because I had always heard that the reason we didn't get Luke until the end of Force Awakens was because as soon as we get introduced to Luke, it becomes Luke's story and Luke's movie. We are then following Luke. It doesn't matter about the new characters, so that's why they held off on him. And it is true. This is Luke's movie. It does. While we get some side plots with other characters, it is very much Luke's story and what happened between him and Kylo and why things are the way they are. So it opens with the First Order coming at the Resistance and trying to wipe out the remnants. So we have Poe, Finn still in kind of like a hypersleep from Kylo fucking him up last movie, and Leia are all there, and they're trying to get away. They're trying to get the hell out of Dodge, and Poe pulls up this plan of, well, let me stall them because the First Order has brought in this big Devastator, this fleet destroying ship that is just set to not necessarily destroy the planet like a star destroyer, not a star destroyer. A Death Star would, but it can take out ships with one shot. So he goes to stall, and we have the best fucking exchange of the movie. It plays parallel to what we had with Force Awakens as far as he calls into Hux and is like, he's just pretending to be on hold and fucking with them. And it is just so comedic and brilliant. And that is kind of a recurring theme throughout the movie, is there's a lot more humor injected into it, and it's enjoyable to watch because of it, because it's unexpected. It breaks up these very tense moments, and it keeps you laughing throughout to the point where, okay, they're gonna hit us with something totally unexpected, but then they're gonna make us laugh about it. So the Resistance manages to escape to hyperspace. However, the First Order is able to track them through hyperspace, which is a first. Before it was always, okay, we can get to hyperspace and we're gone. They can't track us. We can get away to the other side of the galaxy and be fine. Han did it to great effect multiple times in the original trilogy. But now the First Order is able to track them. So most of the movie is a very slow chase scene, because after the Resistance manages to get away and they get out of hyperspace, the First Order pops up right behind them and immediately starts peppering them and taking out ships again. That's at that point they realize, oh, they're tracking us. We can't outrun them in the sense that we can go to hyperspace and then just get away. Instead, we have a very slow cat and mouse game where their main ship is the Resistance main ship is faster than the closest Star Destroyer, so they can just stay outside of range of it, but they're running low on fuel. So this begins a thing of, well, how do we get away from it? Finn wakes up as a coward and is trying to abandon ship, and that's when we're introduced to the new character of Rose, who's like an engineer who tasers him for trying to desert. And then he realizes, oh yeah, well, they're tracking us and I can get it. We can fix it. Rose can get rid of it, but we need to get on the ship, and it turns out it's Snoke's flagship that's chasing them, so we need an expert hacker to get us on. At that point, they contact Maz Kanata, and she tells them, oh yeah, head to this planet, and there will be somebody there that can help you. So we have our subplot established. Okay, here's how we get away from the First Order, but we need to get these people off the ship. Now, during that first attack sequence, we had Leia put into a bit of a coma because As the ships were getting destroyed, a couple of TIE fighters shot a missile into the bridge. She went floating out into space, used the Force, got back in, and has been in a coma since. Now, she already wasn't happy with Poe's actions in the first battle because it got their bomber squadron and a lot of people killed. So she made it her first kind of point of duty to demote him when he got back, and then goes into the coma, which leaves another lady, Holden, in charge. Now, Holden lacks basic respect for her crew, as far as she has a plan but isn't telling them what the plan is. Now, this is where the conflict comes up, that Poe, Finn, and Rose aren't going to tell Holden what the idea is to get out of there, and Holden isn't telling them what her idea is to get them out of there. So it does break down to kind of like an episode of The Flash where, fuck it, if you people would just tell each other what's happening, there would be a lot less conflict in this movie, to the point where, because of how things pan out, the Finn and Rose subplot ultimately becomes meaningless. Their actions are null and void. They do really nothing for them. They end up traveling to essentially a high-rolling planet where people who sell weapons to both the Republic and the First Order live high and mighty. We have some abused cat horse things. And they meet Benicio del Toro, who turns out to be a hacker and betrays them. And the long and short of it is, their story doesn't matter. But it's fun to watch. It's fun to experience. And I guess this is where a lot of people have a hard time. They didn't like this sequence, mostly because it feels like it drags on and ultimately leads nowhere. But it was so different from our usual Star Wars fare, where we got to see how actual people lived in this galaxy, that it was something new, and I enjoyed it. Even if it did go, ultimately nowhere, not everything has to go somewhere. It's about enjoying the ride, the experience along with it. And that's exactly what we got with that. We had some great character growth and development with Finn, who I did not care for in the first movie, and now we see him kind of grow up. And Benicio del Toro introduces us to a new type of character who, odds are we won't ever see him again. I hope we don't see him again. It'd be great if he was just kind of a one-off. But he shows us, it's unlike Han Solo, who pretends to be a rogue. This guy he's just a straight-up rogue. He works for the highest bidder. He'll turn in supposed allies if it means, padding his wallet and keeping the First Order off his back. So what we find is that what ultimately makes everything pointless is, as Finn is staging this coup or mutiny to find a way to get them onto the ship to disable the tracking beacon so they can escape through hyperspace, Holden's had this plan, like, we'll just fuel up some escape pods. We're passing by an old rebel base where those ships can kind of just duck out real quick, because the Empire or the First Order will be focused on this main ship. They can go hide there, and then everybody just passes on by. Had they said that, wouldn't be an issue. However, since Rose, Finn, and Del Toro know about this, Del Toro turns them in, and the First Order starts blowing these escape ships out of the sky, which forces Holden's hand to essentially turn her cruiser around, and this big, complicated hyperdrive attack wipes out most of the Empire's or First Order's forces. So ultimately, it's a kind of a moot subplot. It doesn't really go anywhere. It doesn't really do much, but it's told in a very fun fashion. The handful of surviving Resistance members make it to the planet, where they decide, they have to make a final stand against this Empire ship. Now, while all this is going on, we have Rey dealing with Luke. And this is my biggest concern or problem with the movie as a whole. Luke isn't written in a way that I would have expected his character to act. He's become a hermit, he's run away from his problems, and he is absolutely refusing to help anyone. In fact, when he gets the lightsaber from Rey, the first thing he does is he just chucks it over his shoulder and walks away and locks himself in his room. And he doesn't want to deal with anyone, doesn't want to interact with anything. He just wants all these problems to go away, and he wants to die alone on the island. And it's all because he failed Kylo, and Kylo murdered several other apprentices and burned down the Jedi Temple. Now, for whatever reason, this is where we get some of the prequel problems into this latest edition. The Jedi, while being pacifists, are very quick to murder. They're like, oh yeah, killing this person is definitely the answer to life's problems. Essentially, what breaks down between Kylo and Luke was that Snoke had been influencing Kylo. He had been, seducing him to the dark side, saying, oh, you can be the next Darth Vader, because, as we know, Kylo has this big raging heart-on for his grandfather. Luke senses this, and in a dumb fucking move, he goes to Ben's, or Kylo's, room at night, and contemplates for a brief second killing him. He fires up his lightsaber, and of course in that instant Kylo wakes up, sees his uncle standing over him with a lightsaber, and then proceeds to fire up his own lightsaber, bring the roof down on Luke, and then kill everybody in the temple, burn it down, and run to the dark side. Again, had the character stopped and, instead of, well, I should murder my nephew because he had a nightmare, it should be a thing of, well, let's sit down and talk to him. Let's call in his mom and dad and say, hey, here's what's happening. We need to come together as a family and work through this. And odds are we wouldn't have the conflict that we have now. But because the Jedi are so quick to oh, well, murder's the answer, just like Mace with Palpatine, had he just stuck to protocol, we wouldn't have had Vader, we wouldn't have had the Emperor, it would have been fine. And it's frustrating to see those prequels mistakes repeated here. It's such a cheap cop-out. And then to further insult us, we have a Luke who is just refusing to accept, responsibility or correct these mistakes, and just runs away from the problem. And bear in mind, a lot of this is coming from the expanded universe, which is now not canon. Luke had a similar situation with another student called Kip Duron. Kip found and revived a long-dead Sith Lord, who he then apprenticed himself to, went to challenge Luke and overthrow the Jedi Order, and very similar to Kylo. Now, long story short, Luke was able to kind of get him set straight, but not alone. He had the help of others around him. And while Luke went into a depression and tried to, kind of run away from his problems and say, oh, I'm not the master I should be, he had that support net around him, which kind of forced him into action and got him back on his feet. And we don't see that in this movie, or in this interpretation of the Star Wars story. And that's what's so frustrating, is that we finally do get it, but it's 30 years after the fact, where it takes, Chewie ripping off the door to his hut and screaming at him, and R2 showing up, and it just feels like this should have happened 30, years ago, or 15, whenever, you failed Kylo. It should have been, okay, well, this happened, but don't fucking run away from it. We're here, we've got your back. And it's frustrating to see that. It's not the Luke I would have wanted, and from, the interviews that Mark Hamill's given, is not the Luke he wanted either, but it played the role. But it's told in such an effective manner that while I don't personally agree with it, I can respect it and I'm okay with it. It goes to the point that we see Luke die, and I didn't want that. I wasn't sure if it was going to happen or not. But the way it's told, that made me, like, okay, I'm okay with this. I'm at peace. And that's kind of how a lot of the movie broke down for me as well. I don't agree with it, but it's told in a really effective way, and it makes sense. So, okay, we'll give it a pass. And I guess kind of the long and short of it is that the things are being broken down and burned away. Leia is the only remaining piece from the original trilogy, unless you count 3PO and R2. But even they've been reduced to, 30 seconds of screen time, which is great. They've really ramped up character arcs and development for the 3 new protagonists. And I'm excited to see a movie that focuses solely on them because, as we know, Carrie Fisher's dead. She's not going to be in the new movie. And essentially all the old Vanguard is now gone. And I'm excited to see that. The Skywalkers are done. Kylo is the only remnant of that family left. And it's a different galaxy at this point. We don't have the Emperor apprentice mechanic because, surprise, surprise, Kylo kills Snoke. Kylo, contrary to popular belief, doesn't like being abused and manipulated. So he kills Snoke. Snoke we don't really find out anything about, which was another pain point for a lot of people. But ultimately, doesn't matter. Because he's not this Emperor figure any longer. We have Kylo filling that role. He served his purpose. I'm sure they were planning on doing something else with him different originally, but not the way it panned out. And it was so refreshing to see that structure broken where we don't have this Emperor figure. That I was okay with that. Okay, it seems like he was a stepping stool for Kylo and nothing more. The other thing that is, Rey's parents are nobodies. Kylo tells her they were drunks who sold her and died doing nothing with their lives. Which would be fantastic if I believed it, because again, I want new characters, I want new blood, I want new stories, and I want people that aren't related to previous characters. But I still suspect she's a clone of somebody, either Palpatine or Kenobi. Most likely Palpatine, but no, it's good because it was a very unique way of having Star Wars fans let go of what they've held on to for so long and moving us and getting us ready for the future, and that's what's gotten me excited. I could give two shits about the Han Solo standalone movie, but give me some new core Star Wars, I'm down. There's a lot in that movie. It is definitely worth seeing. And it's one that it's so divisive between critics and fans and even fans and fans. It's one you do need to see for yourself, make your own opinion. But that's going to wrap things up here. Again, a happy Merry Christmas to everybody. If you tuned in live, thank you. But of course, you can always catch the show on iTunes, Pocket Cast, Google Play, pretty much anywhere you get your podcasts. And then, of course, you can write the show, theunwashedasses@gmail.com. Again, theunwashedasses@gmail.com. Or Twitter @unwashed_asses. Send in your thoughts, your opinions, whatever it is we talked about, and we'll read those on the air. But of course, you can always support the show, patreon.com/0and09, and we'll see you next week.
Oh, my lover, you are beautiful. But that beauty comes at such a price. and I know that you'll soon disappear. Like the dark and the night.